I was born in India. I grew up with like 23 people sharing the same space. I was getting, I think, trained or wired to be intentional about other human beings in the world and be intentional and present to the idea that it doesn't matter where you are, what you do, how you do it, you can always help somebody else. But sometimes in life, we're chasing something so hard, we forget that life's not just about that one thing. Life's more grand and has more opportunity if we gave ourselves some grace. When somebody asked me the question of who are you, and I couldn't answer beyond that I'm the CEO of Mindvalley. And so I recognized that there is something that's completely wrong about this situation where I have no idea who I am as a person beyond the work I do. And so they asked, what are your goals? And I said, well, the only goal I have now is how many thank yous I get to collect. My primary values that are my driving factor for everything that I do in life is love and service.
We basically call it serving over selling. Because everybody's out there selling. Are you serving? Ajit.
So excited to be here, man.
Yeah, man. Again, thank you so much for just doing this, taking out, your time to come and sit with me and talk it up. So let me ask you this, what are you in town for?
I'm literally in town to actually be with a friend, and that led us to set up a podcast tour pretty much. I started with one podcast, and there was a friend of mine that is shooting some episode for one of our programs. And then I reached out a couple of friends, and they're like, hey, I'm there.
And who connected us?
Melissa. Yes.
She was a fantastic guest.
Yeah.
Actually, just my last guest, right?
Oh, wow, wonderful.
Yeah. And
I didn't know that. She was just like, you got to do the big dogs.
Her story is incredible.
Yeah.
I just love hearing stories about people that, just struggle, go through stuff in life, and then come out on the other side of it. Yeah. And she's done that, and she's doing it, and she has a lot more to accomplish. And it was a really cool conversation, and I'm glad she connected us. So
yeah, she's a beautiful soul.
She really is. Yeah. It was great. So we're just gonna dive in. I want to start. You just tell us a little bit about you said you live in Austin, and what do you do? Just give me a little what your life is all about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me give you a little backstory.
Yeah,
so it kind of sets up the life right now in a way. So I was born in India. So I was born in Jaipur. It's a small town in India. I grew up with 23 people sharing the same space. Wow. Not all my parents' kids. So it's like grandparents and uncles and aunts, everybody together. And so I grew up in a space shared with so many people. So early on in my life, I was always chasing to get out of that space. You know how when you're in a challenging situation in life that I'm sure you've experienced, and you want to just get out of it. Mm-hmm. And that was my early motivation to get out. But one of the things that was subtly happening around me, which I'll only realize in time was so important in my life, was that while we were struggling financially, my grandfather was an elder to the community. So we would see people come into our house and spend days talking to him about something. Now we're kids, we're like, we don't know why these people are here. We already don't have space. And now there are 10 people just sitting around him listening to something. And he's talking about something. And so subconsciously, I was getting, I think, trained or wired, or maybe it's through generation that was transferred to be intentional about other human beings in the world and be intentional and present to the idea that it doesn't matter where you are, what you do, how you do it, you can always help somebody else. Now, I only realized that later in life. Early chase was let's make some money.
Yeah.
And in that process, I started working with companies. I got some success with a company called Mindvalley. Do you know anything about this company?
Mindvalley, not sure.
So Mindvalley is, I would say we're probably the largest company when it comes to personal development. At this point, we have about 300,000 members annual that work with us at any given time. We certify about 12,000 coaches a year in life and business and spirituality and so forth.
So it's like life coaches? Is that what it is?
Life coaching is one of the verticals. So we are literally a training company, you can say, a membership. Do you know Masterclass?
Oh, yes. I've heard
So
of it.
think
Yeah.
masterclass, but for personal development.
Okay.
Right? Personal development, health, everything, basically, spirituality,
Yeah.
everything included. So it's one of those companies I found. I became a part of that company, really rose to the ranks from an intern to a CEO in about 6 years. Then ended up starting my own company. That company was more focused because I was going through a dark night of the soul of my own life. Had a realization that I had chased money so long, I had forgotten about living my life or enjoying or having fun with life.
And did this happen like
about-
after you became CEO of the company?
Yeah. After I was CEO of the company when this happened, I realized that
And you said it real fast. I just want everybody to hear it.
Yeah.
You went from intern to CEO.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
Like,
in about
that's
6
awesome.
years. Yeah, in about 6
Amazing.
years. Yeah.
And not a long, that didn't take, I mean, 6
No,
years.
6
that's
years
impressive.
is really short.
Yeah.
I was CEO when I was 31.
Amazing.
So that's incredible. I really appreciate the work that I was able to do. And the work was great. I really enjoyed doing everything that I did. But sometimes in life we're chasing something so hard we forget that life's not just about that one thing.
Right.
Life's more grand and has more opportunity if we gave ourselves some grace. So that happened for me at that time. It was a wake-up call when somebody asked me the question of who are you? And I couldn't answer beyond that I'm the CEO of Mindvalley after telling my name. And so I recognized that there is something that's completely wrong about this situation where I have no idea who I am as a person beyond the work I do.
Wow.
And so I kind of quit everything and went back and found a lot of coaches supporting me at the time and hired everybody that I could to help me really discover myself again. And that journey realized that while all these coaches are so brilliant and so needed in the society today, they often are so lost themselves when it comes to building a business or when it comes to really having a methodology that evolves on itself, being able to help people in complex situations. And so ended up developing a product, a business really, that was called EverCoach at the time. We recently merged ourselves into Mindvalley, and now it's called Mindvalley Coach.
Okay.
So that's where I was
So
saying.
it came full circle.
Came full circle, yeah.
So you brought it, like, did you bring it to the Mindvalley team and say, hey, I want to add this, or did they come to you? How did that work?
It was an organic process. They were investors in the business when we started, because like I was CEO of the company, and when I was moving on, I said, hey, listen, I'm going to do this company, and if I'm going to do it, do you want to invest? Because I mean, I know if I put my mind to anything, it'll be successful. I'm pretty certain of that. And I like to take people along, the ones that have been, friends and family in different ways.
Right.
So yeah, and they said yes, we'll love to invest, we'll love to partner up, and so it was just organic. It fit right into the module of what Mindvalley does, and it just worked out. So just recently, just 6 months ago, we merged into that company.
Oh, congratulations!
So
That's great.
now I am primarily a trainer for coaches in the field of life, business, or money. That's really my focal point.
And so when you say trainer, you're like their coach?
So if a coach is out in the world, they need a methodology. Like I saw your gym, beautiful gym, by the way, great setup here. And there was a class happening. The person that's running a class is trained by someone, right? They're not just waking up one day saying, all right, I'm going to run a class, right? So that training that trainer takes for life coaching, we run such training on how to really help anyone when they're coming through a challenge in life or business or anything very specific to money.
Is it like system oriented?
It is a system.
So that's kind of like, for me, that's kind of like how I've grown. What I do is systems, you know, because without systems and procedures, to your point, that coach, trainer wouldn't know how to do what you just witnessed. And what you just witnessed is happening at 6 other locations at the same time. And that would be impossible if we didn't have these systems that were taught and have, this is what you're supposed to do, So
Exactly. So to correlate to that experience, not necessarily the person that was running the class, but I also saw that in your gym you have a physical therapy area.
Yes.
Right. A therapist knows a system, but it has to adapt it to the person. Mm-hmm. That's what a coach does. Okay. So we train them in the system, but then we also show them how to adapt it to the situation that the person's struggling with. So that's what a life coach, business coach, or a money coach does, and that's what I train.
Amazing. And how many coaches do you have under you?
Well, we train about 10 to 12,000 coaches every year.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we've been training and certifying people for about 3-4 years. So I would say in total, maybe 30,000 approximately that have trained directly with my methodology.
That's incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
And how long have you been Doing 6 months?
No, 6 months before we merged, but I've been training coaches or certifying coaches for about 4 years.
Oh, okay. All right.
4 years. But I've been coaching for about 10 myself. And before that, I, of course, ran Mindvalley. And before that, I was doing other things. So I've been in the field for a minute. But also, like I was relating back to the story of how I grew up, I think that was just always in my bones. I just never really made a system out of it until recently.
Right.
It was just how I saw my grandfather be the elder of the. That's what a coach's job is, really. If you think about it, he's acting like an elder to any person in life who's going through a situation.
And that, when you say elder, is that like a spiritual?
No.
So explain what an elder is.
Elder, I mean, different cultures see it differently.
Exactly. Like your culture.
Yeah.
Like what
different culture sees it differently. But elder, from my point of view, means somebody that you can go up to and be who you are, present without judgment or be judged, and get an honest opinion, an honest perspective to whatever the situation is at. And that's really what an elder does. An elder is a space to hold, is a space to guide, and is to also transfer or expand your consciousness, if I may call it that. I don't know how deep we go in the metaphysical world here.
You can get as deep as you want to. We like deep here, so yeah. I really like that.
Yeah. How about you? How did you get, I mean, clearly you've been in this world for a hot minute.
Are you saying I look old? Is that what it is? Wow.
Well, I say that because you have 7 locations. Your drink is with Miami Heat. From what I heard, I mean, Amber's been briefing us all about it.
We've been at this for a while, yes. It's been a 15-year journey, really. Beautiful. 20 plus years as far as like when I decided to come down to Miami. But I mean, it's, it's a 20-year story, so it's hard to kind of give you but I'll try. So basically I grew up, with just a very strong family presence, strong dad, great mom, mama's boy to a certain extent. And, my dad was a tough dad, but I mean, I thank him for it, like I wouldn't want it any other way. And grew up kind of thinking that, I grew up in Alabama. So it was like, you're going to play sports, you're going to play football. You're going to be a professional athlete. That's kind of like, it's just kind of how you were molded, like you're going to lift weights. You're going to become a badass athlete. You're going to go that route. And so my junior year of being like an exceptional athlete, I broke my back. And it was, a devastating time. And it was one of those situations where they told me, you'll never play sports again. You'll only be able to walk, like that kind. It was a very like, traumatic, like it's over for you, And then I, of course, ignored the doctors and rehabbed myself back, and then became like defensive player of the year in Alabama, got a scholarship walked on at Auburn and got a scholarship my first year. And then, and then here comes the dream again, starts to, you're like, oh my God, I'm actually doing it. And then broke my back again. Oof. Same injury, same everything. So then here you go again, down that, depression and, what am I going to do in my life? And then, I really dove into exercise science and kinesiology and health promotions, like just learning. I didn't want other people to go through what I went through. And that's what I started to feel like was going to be my calling, was just helping people become the best versions of themselves through a better methodology, through a better way to do it. And so I was very like into it, from learning, getting different certifications and learning from mentors and seeking advice and all that stuff. And then had an opportunity to be a strength coach in Birmingham, Alabama, under actually one of my mentors that was my personal trainer when I was in 7th grade. Ended up training the football team and tennis team, and like kind of handed me over the reins, and did very well. And then a buddy of mine, so I'm doing that, I'm training some professional athletes privately, and then a buddy of mine called me and said, hey, and a lot of people have heard this story, and said, hey, if you shave your head, and this is when I had nice blonde locks, so easy. If you shave your head, then I know you'll get a body double, stunt double job in Bad Boys 2 here in Miami. He was a model here in Miami. So I literally shaved my head within 30 minutes. Sent him, I think at the time it was like a Polaroid is all we could do. Back then we didn't have the iPhones, and got hired, packed my car up, had $2,000 to my name, packed this beat up Nissan Maxima, drove all the way to Miami. And I'll never forget like coming over the bridge, seeing the Miami Beach sign, and like, getting on Euclid and feeling the bumps and seeing the palm trees and stuff. And I literally was like, I'm never going home. Like, I'm never going home. And that was without me experiencing Miami. I just kind of felt it. I was like, I'm never going home. And yeah, I did that job. And then, I knew that wouldn't really pay the bills forever, because it was like a $350, a day job, and I was only shooting for a little bit there in Miami. And so I walked into Crunch and became the 39th trainer out of 38 trainers. And back then, Crunch on South Beach, 13th and Washington, was where Eminem, Madonna, 50 Cent, it was the place, it was the happening place back in 2001, 2002, something like that. And within like 3 months, I had more clients than anybody. And again, it was like one of those things where you just felt like you're in the right spot and you're doing the right thing and you're changing lives and you're doing it at a higher level. Your hustle is like, you're seeing that you're moving in a different way. Like your energy's different. You show up early, you stay late, like you're just in it. You're more vested in it than those around you. And you're like, man, I can really do something with this. And then, there's so much in between, but I end up traveling with different, celebrity clients and doing stuff. And then one day, finally, one of my clients was like, why don't you open up your own gym? And then I was like, oh yeah, like duh.
Yeah.
And so, back then we didn't have Pinterest. We didn't have, it was get the poster board and start putting magazine pictures and like literally doing like a dream board, and then open up my first location and like right behind here in the hood. Back when Wynwood was not Wynwood. And that was November 2008. And it was, it was not easy. It was right after the recession. Not a lot of people were paying for personal trainers. And so then I had to pivot very fast. And so I started this class, which back then was called Boot Camp, and created this system called now what's today is PIT, Partner Interval Training. And it was crazy because like within 2 weeks, I had like 100 something people showing up. And I was like, kind of like the, if you've seen Seinfeld, like the soup Nazi, like I was like, like very intense, and I would kick people out of the class, and I became like kind of infamous. Like it was like, you have to go to this guy's class, like he's a maniac, and it was very military-esque, and from my college football background, like very coaching, but people loved it, like absolutely loved it. Obviously, we've had to tone it down a little bit to be able to expand, but and then there's so much to tell, but I trained thousands of professional athletes as well to kind of build my name up, and then after expanding, I had an opportunity I was trying to raise money for the gyms, and I was able to meet a guy named William Mahfood, who's the owner of Wasinco, which is the largest food and beverage distributor and carrier in the Caribbean and Jamaica. And he was like, I'm not really into the gym thing, but I absolutely love your brand and I love what you're doing. And have you ever thought about doing beverages? And then that's how, now today we have our own water, and eventually we'll have different kind of beverages, but we're the official premium water of the Miami Heat. So again, I could talk all day about the ins and outs of what I've done, but it's, there was a lot of struggles, a lot of losses, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of pain, a lot of, stuff that's happened in between. It's definitely not been this at all.
What is one thing that, do you mind me asking you a question?
Oh, you can ask me anything. We're good.
So I don't want
to take from you too. That's why I feel bad. I'm like talking like
we're just having a conversation.
So, yeah.
One of the times that you mentioned that when you moved here first you joined this gym called Crunch. I think is that right?
Back in the day.
And you were like 29 trainer.
38 trainers. I was the 39th trainer.
39 trainer. And in 3 months you had more clients than anybody else.
Yeah.
What was so different about you?
So I think I had a funny advantage. I was a white boy from Alabama with a little bit of Southern accent back then, probably a little bit more than I have now. Now, Miami's probably, ruined my Southern accent to a certain degree. I was shredded, like ripped. Beyond belief. Like
no, you're not doing
just a little bit now. But I was, I walked in a room and people were like, "What the heck?" It was like no fat whatsoever. And my trick was I would take my dogs down Lincoln Road shirtless, and the gay guys loved me. So I had 17 of my like 20 something clients. I had 17 gay clients, and they're great clients because they pay on time. They all have money. They love being in shape. And they love hanging out, believe it or not, with good looking straight guys. Like they actually will say that, like, you know, and especially when you're like coaching them and leading them and treating them as just like anybody else. And I was really good. I love people in general. Yeah. And so I developed some great relationships through that time. And then, you know, what happens too is when you get in that crowd, well, who hangs out with the gay guys? The most beautiful women in Miami. So then all of a sudden you're meeting the hottest chicks in Miami, and then they find out that you're their trainer, and then they want you to train. So then there's this domino effect. Then the hot chicks introduce you to the athletes and the celebrities. So it's just like, that's why I always say you never know. I love what you said earlier about intentionality. It's like nobody's too small to give attention to be intentional about the conversation. So I remember it was always, I don't care if you were 400 pounds, if you look broke or whatever, I still treated you the same way. And so I think people notice that too, is that I didn't like, you know, some guy, I mean, I'll never forget this guy, he was like this big around, teeny little gay man, and like, you know, flaming, like, you know, hey, you know, like that. Yeah. And he wanted to train with me. And I was like, you know, and I'm from Alabama. I mean, that didn't happen often. So, and I treated him just like every other client, and he got awesome results, and it was a great experience, you know? So I just think if I had to look back on it on why it was because I just treated I didn't care who you were. I didn't care if you were a celebrity, if you're gay, straight, black, white, whatever. I just treated everybody the same and gave them results. And then also too, like, what I noticed is nobody was showing up at 5 a.m. and training until 10 p.m. Like most of the trainers had these like little segments. They would come in for 3 hours at a time, here or there. And I lived at the gym. Like I was there in the morning and I didn't leave, you know? So and then also too, back then I trained like an animal. So then also like making sure people saw me when I trained, and trained at the like busiest time so people would see it, and that helped. It was funny. It got to the point where people would get mad if I didn't train with them, you know? It was like, so, but it was, I mean, that's really how I got it started in Miami, was just, I guess, just really just being friendly. Like if I really think about it, it's just being nice and kind. Like it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like I didn't know more than the other person or have, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't my smarts. Like it was just literally just being nice. Like if
I wanted
really
to ask that because a lot of people struggle to start, and your start has great lessons in there. Kindness is so discounted most of the time, and that's why it's so rarely available. But sometimes that's the business strategy, is just care.
And and not to interrupt you, but like also too is the ability to just open your mouth. Like what I've noticed is like people have forgotten how to do this. Like, you know, like how to just, hey, how you doing, man? How's it going? You know, I see you in here. Like that was another thing too, is just opening conversation, having dialogue, asking questions, getting people to talk about themselves, and then saying, when you find that moment where they say, you know, but I'm having struggle, you know, I'm struggling eating, you know, like I can't figure it out, you know, and then that's when you give them a solution, you give them an answer. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I think I can help you. And then, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people struggle. I'm sure in the training industry, it's same with the coaching industry, is that people think, you know, a lot of people do these things for money. Yes. And there's nothing wrong with money. Money is a great thing. We should all have it. But when you turn the lens and you take a lens like the one that you took, which is just, I will just be nice to people. Right, I will be kind. I will care. I give a damn.
Like you gotta serve them.
Yeah, I gotta give a damn. That was our strategy at EverCoach, which is now Mindvalley Coach. Is people would often go, why? Because we got successful in the industry. That when I entered the industry, people were like, you can't enter it, because its first reason was very racist. Because first reason they said is because you're an Indian man. You're brown and you have an accent, so nobody will accept you. I was like, that's racist. That's what it is.
When was this?
This is really my introduction to the industry.
Oh my God.
It was funny. And these were coaches, people who actually were supposed to help other people. I was like, that's just wrong at many levels.
So wrong.
But I was like, all right, whatever. And the second reason was because they were like, you know, you're not going to get successful because, you know, everybody's already making so much money. So, and I was like, but that's not the point of coaching, right? It's like saying, I'm going to open the gym so I can make money. You're opening the gym because you want to help people get a really good life, like
Right.
be fit, be healthy, take care of their bodies. And then you make money as a product
Exactly.
of it, right? You go in, you say, I will be your trainer, not because I can make some money. Yes, I will that be the byproduct. But the reason is because I know if I work with you, I'm going to help you so much that you'll be like, I want to always train with you. I miss when I don't train with you because I
Right.
feel so good when I train with you, right? I'm making you fitter, healthier, or maybe just making you feel good in that really hard day. Like
Right.
it could be just that. But that's important for us as human beings. But we forget that when we are building things. We think it's all about these tactics and strategies and gimmicks that everybody tries to tell us about. But it's not about that. This is a human business, like
And
you said.
listening. Like there was a lot of clients where I would show up at the gym, we would walk out of the gym and we'd go for a walk.
Yeah.
Like literally, we would go for a walk and they would just blah, 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 you know, and tell me everything, and I would just listen and just make sure they kept walking, you know. And then that was the session. And then, you know, so we call it like with our systems, we basically call it serving over selling, because everybody's out there selling. Are you serving? And then if you can change that to, you know, when you think about what you're doing, like, yes, we're asking you to sell memberships and sell personal training and sell, obviously, yes. But if you can shift it to you're serving people and then go the extra mile. That was another thing that I always had. I was always available too. You know, it helped being single and, you know, being in Miami and not knowing a soul, but I was always available, you know, like, which is important, you know, like, oh, hey, I want to train. And it was, you know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, I got you. You know, I'll be there in a second. You know, like, you know, being
it's
available.
funny. Your value, and you said your serving was serving over selling. Is
Serving
one of the-
over selling, yeah,
overselling,
exactly.
right? And my primary values that are my driving factor for everything that I do in life is love and service. Love being the primary.
Yes.
That must always come from a place of love and always be loving as a human being. Just operate from a place of love and always be in service. So it's kind of like correlated that.
No,
that
for
our
sure.
values
I always
are
say
very
that
aligned. Yeah.
people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yes.
You know,
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, because especially in our industry,
Yeah.
like, you know, the personal training fitness industry, especially now, like, I mean, everyone's a trainer. Everyone has all the answers. Everyone has a 6-pack on Instagram, like, you know, the filters or whatever. And so you're getting just dumped all this information, and now it's costing a fortune. Like, everything costs more, you know, when it comes to that field. So people are looking to see if you actually care about them. Like, do you really care? Or are you just trying to take my money? You know? So there's, and people know, people are smart, you know, when it comes to that. Like, you know, they might not be smart in other areas, but when it comes to like knowing affection and feeling that feeling, pretty much people can get that at least. So
and I think people are smart generally also. It's just that their frame of reference often changes, and so it looks dumb from a point of view. But
I
people are
worry about people sometimes though.
You're a kind person.
Yes.
You're very kind. Yeah.
How does spirituality play a role in your definition of wealth, and why is it important?
So I think wealth or money generally is, I see it as a spiritual practice. I know it's very counter to what everybody says and what everybody believes, but I believe that we all as human beings have a field of consciousness, if I may, or a field of vibration, or a field of energy, however you want to call it. And that field is what really invites whatever will happen in our life. So if your field is clean and it's broad, you can attract whatever you want in your life. Wealth of money, but wealth of also friendships, wealth of relationships, wealth of great intellectual conversation, wealth of whatever that is that you want to attract towards you can be created if you are operating from a large consciousness, and it's a clean consciousness. And you can establish that by 2 factors. One is thoughts and one is feelings. What does that mean? So there's a gentleman called Dr. David Hawkins. He created something called the scale of consciousness. He said, based on your emotion, the way your emotions can define how conscious or what level of consciousness you will operate from. So emotions like shame, fear, they're the lower level of consciousness. And the consciousness kind of moves up once you start operating from the emotions of love, joy, all of those, right? So the more you can get yourself into the state of feeling love or above, the more your consciousness will expand and will stay clean to attract anything that you want to attract in your life. Also, at the same point in time, it's your thoughts that influence your feelings. Like your feelings also influence your thoughts, but your thoughts mostly are the first trigger, if I may. And your thoughts, most of our thoughts, are a function of our past or our future, right? So it may be yesterday I woke up this way, today I woke up this way, and so these are the thoughts I'm going to have, right? Whatever the thoughts were, they're repeating. I think there was some study that was done, I think by the Harvard Institute or something, where they found that about 80% of all our thoughts are same thoughts as yesterday. So that's our thoughts from the past. It helps us in living our life because we go, I know where the water is. That's your thought. That's your feeling from thought from yesterday because you kept the water there, right? But it is also where today's gonna be hard, right? Oh crap, I have to do that thing. That's also coming from your past because yesterday that was hard means today is gonna be hard, right? Or it's the anxiety from the future. It's like the more we ruminate about tomorrow, will I get that deal? Will that work? Will I get that client? Or whatever the thing is, you keep creating that reality for you in this moment, which is in the future. So you're living almost always in your past or in your future, but nothing really gets created in the past or the future because both of them are arbitrary in a way.
Right.
Right. And they are both really just stories that you tell. They have nothing to do with the truth. Right. Whatever past you believe it to be is what's the story you will tell. To give you a reference point, all my life, not all, but big part of my life, I used to think that my mother doesn't love me. And the reason was because it's not, in India, it's common and it wasn't weird. And now that I think about it, I realize it was just silly of me to think so. But she would hit me sometimes, right? She would hit me and she would so that I study or do whatever she's asking me to do. And so that was the memory I anchored. And I said, she used to hit me. She never hit my brother in front of me. She must not love me, right? So that was the story. Guess what would be a response of a person that has that story? Well, I would never really love and appreciate my mother, first of all, because I'm like, you hit me, you don't love me, why should I love you? And secondly, I would just find it hard to find love in my life because I couldn't love even the person or find love with the person that gave birth to me.
Right.
Now, the same person was also the person that pawned her jewelry to send me to a conference. She was also the person that would stay awake in the night so I can have hot food. She's also the person, she would make sure that I was always fed well, taken care of, wore clean clothes. She was also the one who was the first person ever to put me on stage. So what's the story you're telling yourself, right? Because every person has both sides of the story happening for them at any given time. It's just which one you're amplifying. Because the moment I recognized, no, my mother loves me so much. Firstly, I could love her more easily. And I could attract as much love in my life because now I feel loved as a human being, right? And so suddenly, now my vibration expanded for love, right? Because I have removed that block of the story or the thought that was governing my everyday behavior just because of one event that I kept telling myself to be the truth, which was not the truth. It was just a story. Same as the future. Every single time you ruminate about, oh, what will happen tomorrow, you're creating a field of experience that is contracting if it is not empowered. But you empower it, which is you expect positive outcomes in your life. Now you're making it empowered, which means it's expanding your field of consciousness. You're now expanded on both sides. You go, my past stories, I only listen to the stories that tell me that I'm empowered. I only look at the future as an empowered future. But what I'm really getting to is in this moment, I can elevate my feelings to love or above. And now I'm fully present in this moment because the only moment that truly matters in our life is right now. Now my field of consciousness is really broad, really tight, and it's also really empowered. Anything that you want to create becomes easy. Now this is very spiritual, right? Very meta a little bit. But if you think about psychologically, to make it real simple, if your emotions were elevated for love or above, if you were always in the moment, really present with who you are with, and you're doing the kindest thing you can, psychologically, you would always be doing good things. And if you'll only do good things and you wouldn't care about the results that happen tomorrow because there's no tomorrow really, what you will end up having is whatever you want, right? Because in this moment, you can already experience it. If you want to be abundant right now, if you feel love or above, you can feel abundant in this moment. If in this moment you say, all that matters is right now, I'm sitting with an amazing human being who has created great things and I get to have a conversation with him, I don't care what happens tomorrow. I get to experience abundance in this moment. So the more I empower my current moment, easier wealth becomes.
And also, does that tie into like also gratitude?
It does.
You know, like just like as I hear you say that, I mean, the first thing I think of is operating in a space of being grateful for where you are and not concerned with where you've been or where you're going, but actually living in that space of I'm alive today. I'm here with you now.
Yeah.
Let's make the most of it. Like, because that's like, I mean, a lot of what you're saying is like what No Days Off is for us. So No Days Off is never taking a day off on you. It's a commitment to becoming your best self.
Yeah.
So for me,
and I love that.
It's because I kept like early on, like even before YouTube and maybe not before YouTube, but before like people were doing like motivational videos and stuff. I was always doing stuff about what happens when you wake up. And like referencing that, because to me, I feel like everyone on earth, well, you know, not, I mean, this is a broad set, but everybody takes that for granted. Like when you wake up, your eyes open, you're breathing, you know, air, and then you put your feet on the ground and it's like, that's a blessing. Like, because literally you are not guaranteed tomorrow. You're not even guaranteed anything. Like, and so it's such a, so I think if we can, so I always said, if we can make the most out of that moment, like, okay, it's another day to do something great, to be great, to, you know, just to live with intention, you know? So yeah.
And gratitude is such a good point that you mentioned, because I think that's again, one more thing that people say, I will be grateful when. And that's just not how gratitude works.
When this happens, then I'll be grateful. Right?
Yeah, but gratitude is in the moment, like you said. I can be grateful for anything right now. I could be grateful for the life I've had. I could be grateful for the water I get to drink, the conversation we get to have for this moment, but it's just because for being who you are.
Right.
And most people can be grateful. They don't see it that way, because most of the people think about today I don't have what I want to have, versus thinking of the contrast of life. Pretty much anytime I've asked a person, hey, imagine yourself 10 years ago. Do you think you would be where you are right now? I have not had one person say, oh yeah, I absolutely expected that. Most of the people go, no, man, I mean, I'm crushing it compared to what I was 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago, we didn't think we could do what all we did. And suddenly the contrast makes you so grateful, right? The moment I drop into the way I grew up, I can be grateful for high level life of freaking, I don't know whose dreams.
Right.
It's not it's way past my own personal dream, right? So gratitude is so easy. But we always look at the glass half full instead of just being grateful.
Yep. So many people operate in a negative space.
Yeah. Because it's easier.
Yeah.
It gets attention, and we like attention as human beings.
Right.
We all love it, and it's just, we can deny it, but everybody loves a little attention. We all love a little love.
Well, even more so, I would say now. Like,
even more now. Yeah, it's amplified.
You can get so much attention so easily that then you really live in that space. So, what daily practices do you recommend for maintaining a healthy and abundant mindset?
I think, I mean, we kind of started with that. And gratitude is definitely number one, is to be grateful for what is, because it changes your state from lack to something that you're thinking abundant about. So that definitely shapes your day. The second, and I think something to practice, and it is something that takes time to develop, is to choose your thoughts. It is not, it feels obvious, or it feels like you can't really, but it is something that can be developed as a practice. You can really choose to say, what am I going to think about today? And what am I going to believe today? And that every day changes the way you show up in life for the rest of the day. So I call it disempowered thoughts and empowered thoughts. So any thought that makes you feel contracted, or makes you feel like I'm not good enough, or this is not good enough, it's a disempowered thought. You don't need that in your life. You actually don't need that. And you can be in that if you really need to, but know that at any given time you have the power to turn whatever pain you have in life to say, that's it ends today. And change yourself into an empowered thought. An empowered thought is a thought that makes you feel expanded, makes you feel more powerful, more present, more loving. So every thought that we have, every day is a function of a set of thoughts that we would have, right? Any thought, like it could be, man, I'm running such a big company, it's like so many things to do. Does that make you feel expanded? Probably not, right? So it's making you contracted. what is a thought that will actually make you feel expanded? Even if you have to do nothing's going to change, right? You still have to do the list if you have to do the list, right? There's nothing that can change that. But how you approach the list changes just because of the way or the decision you made that morning or that afternoon or that evening. And you have to make that decision pretty much many times in a day for you to get to a place of in the state of wealth and abundance constantly. And when I say wealth and abundance, I don't only mean money abundance. That is, of course, going to happen, but abundance of everything, even the abundance of how you experience life. Because experiencing life is probably the most important thing that we don't talk about enough, right? What's your experience of life? How do you rate on a scale of 1 to 10 that you're living, right? Yes, you'll get success and you'll have money and you'll have a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or kids, or whatever that is that it gives you joy. But experience of life, like, are you living?
Right.
Are you fucking alive?
Right.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to.
You're fine.
Okay.
It's all good.
Are you alive, right? Yeah. And I think that changes the day you say, you know what, today is the day I get to decide. And if I decide that I'm going to live in an expanded, empowered state for all day, you're going to live in an expanded, empowered state. The third tool that it's very popular, but not many people do it, is meditation. Okay. Meditation or just taking 20 minutes for yourself, just going deep within, connecting to your heart. I know men especially don't talk about it enough, but connecting to your heart, dropping right in the center and saying, I love myself and this is love and I want to express love today and I want to operate from that place. Magic. Because very few, like you said, love, kindness, caring about somebody else, you're missing it now. And I'm not saying people are not like that, but we don't express that. The experience is not that. In our heart of hearts, I know all human beings are loving human beings. Even if they do bad things, they're bad moments in our life, we're not bad people. We're good people who are trying to do the best we can. But it takes effort to go back to our heart and ask ourselves, what do we actually want? So that would be some tools that anybody can take. Like you can practice right now. It's amazing. Yeah.
No.
What are your thoughts on that? You're an abundant human being. What are your practices?
So I often say, what are the conversations you're having with yourself daily? And so from a fitness background, one of the things that I constantly would hear is, I'm tired. People literally telling themselves that they're tired. And
Guess what you're going to be.
And I'm like, and literally saying it out loud.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to stop telling yourself what you are, because oftentimes you're saying it like sitting down or you're a little low energy or whatever you're saying it. So that's not going to help. So if you move, and I always say a lot of times people don't realize that how much movement creates momentum, creates energy, creates just a lot of stuff that can help creates creativity and all this stuff. So I constantly would tell clients, like, stop talking down to yourself, because that's really what you're doing, or saying I'm fat or, I'm tired, these negative things, because you control your thoughts, like you're not just thinking these things randomly, and so you can talk back to yourself. So I say it like we're talking shit to ourselves. Yeah. It's like when you get in the cold plunge, what's the first thing that happens? It's cold. So your mind's going, it's freezing. But if you can truly tap into your mind and calm yourself and speak life into yourself, if there's a reason, to me, that's like one of my kind of meditative places is the cold plunge, because it forces you to be still and breathe and not, and also kind of, it's a challenge that to me, like, makes you very, very strong in the moment, like, because you're not listening to what your mind is saying, and you're talking back to yourself to get out of that freak out, because it's freezing, like it really is, like that's not a mystery, so just being in that moment. So I agree with you on having conversations with yourself and making sure that you're having positive conversations. I call it speaking life to yourself. Like, I am great. I'm not tired. I'm going to be fantastic today. Just like speaking life into yourself. And then also speaking life into others. So little things like looking people in the eye and saying good morning or hello, and just making them feel noticed and appreciated. What it does is it comes back to you, because oftentimes when you say it, they smile, they're surprised. So then they say it, oh, well, good morning, or well, thank you, or, like little compliments, love your shoes, love what you did with your hair, like just little stuff like that.
Yeah.
Usually it'll come back to you, and it'll make you, you're doing it for them, but it's actually, you're doing it for yourself. So that, and then I'm a big believer that there's a direct correlation in how you feel mentally of physical, like the physical and mental component. So the better you feel physically, the better you feel mentally. So also preparing your body in a way, because everything's connected. So mind, body, spirit, it's all connected. And so I think that if you don't do things physically, then you're going to be lacking mentally and spiritually. So just making sure that you're like kind of, whether it's exercise, walk, yoga, meditation, something. And so you touched on that. Like meditation to me is a physical thing that you're getting a lot of benefits out of. So yeah. So
I learned that lesson only recently, about 3 years ago. I didn't see meditation as a physical thing, but about 3 years ago, I had experience with my kid. So if you meet me 3 years ago or turn the time back and we met 3 years ago, you would go, oh boy, this guy really doesn't take care of himself at all. Because I wasn't like obese, but I was definitely a little overweight. And I did not have any energy, basically. I have two small kids. I have a 6-year-old now and a 3-year-old now. So when my daughter was born, I would take my son out. My wife was with my daughter. I would take him out. Let's go play.
Season now, so
oh yeah, it's a beautiful season.
It's
Love
amazing.
it. It's fun and it's very interesting. Let's just call it that, right?
Definitely.
So anyways, I took my son out one of the days, and I live in Austin, which is really hot during especially these times. So we went out, but it was like the afternoon, late afternoon, like 5 o'clock or something. I was like, let's go to the park instead of, just playing at home. Let's get out a little bit. And so we started playing tag, and we were playing tag. And maybe in a couple of minutes, I was just like out of breath. I was just like, whew, I'm so tired. I'm exhausted. And I was just blaming it on the heat. I was like, it's so hot. Right. So I told my son, his name is Ari. I was like, Ari, I'm really tired. Let's catch a breath. Like, let me catch a breath. It's like, no, Dada, let's run. Let's run. Because he's 3 years. He doesn't care he doesn't see temperature. He's like, what are you talking about? He just wants to run. So he's like, no, let's run. And I was like, no, I need a minute. I'm really, really tired. I'm really, really tired. And so he looks right dead in my eyes. And this is why kids are like the greatest coaches you can ever hire, or never hire actually. But they're there, and they're like the voice of they're the voice of consciousness, voice of God, whatever you want to say. It looks dead in my eyes and says, Dada, you're always tired. Ooh. That would be like, it was like daggers. I was like, oof. Now I'm not saying that was the first time or the last time, but that was the time when I really heard it. I was like, damn, I don't want my son to ever like feel that.
Yeah.
Like I am tired, and I'm 40 now. I was 37 at the time, so I was like, 37. Your son thinks you're always tired. Like he didn't say that you're tired now. He said you're always tired. It means I had said it enough times for him to think that this is my default. Like that ain't happening. And so 3 years ago, for the first time, I went to the gym. Like I went to the gym before that, but never really.
Right.
The first time I went to the gym. First time I started taking care of myself. First time I started taking care of my body. Started really getting into the act of saying, this body is a bloody temple. Thank you.
Yes.
Still work in progress.
But we always are.
Love
so
it. Yeah.
Know that.
But loving it and appreciate what you just said. The reason I was telling the story is because the physical element that you were talking about, people don't acknowledge it as much. And I couldn't acknowledge it until 3 years ago. I was like, doesn't matter. My body's always there.
Right.
When it's always there, you don't value it. But when you superpower it, like you said, go to the gym, move, walk, do whatever you got to do yoga, it doesn't matter, but do something to your body, and you turn on a switch that I don't think is available in any other way.
Agreed.
Your mind cannot turn it on, your body can.
Yeah, it's it's often like a gift and a curse. What I found that with like really, really smart people, and you strike me as somebody who's very smart, is you almost like talk yourself out of it because you're too damn smart. Like you're like, I'm just smart, I'm good, and I don't need that, And so, or really good looking people too. I've met like some overweight people, and they're good looking. So they're like, I'm good looking. I don't need to work out, So it's like a gift and a curse. But what I've found is that almost like, who was it recently just talked about this? he's a famous, Rick Rubin talks about it a lot, the famous music producer, about when he got into becoming a better physical version of himself, that his creativity just went through the roof. Yeah. So I know for a fact that there's a direct correlation with that. And anytime too, like when you're stuck, like if you're writing a book or can't think of whatever it is, like I'm telling you, work out. Like, work out. Like there's something about it that just opens up a different, like for me, I work out at typically 5 in the morning. And so right around like 5:45, 6, I'm just like I'm ready. Yeah. That's when Oscar and I will jump in and do like, more videos talking to the camera or whatever. Cause that's when I'm at my best, so.
I do it at 3 in the afternoon, and a similar reason to yours is because I see my kids again at around 4.
Oh, so you get that energy boost.
They meet dad like as if it was morning.
That's great.
They go, what? Like, how are you so fired? Right, I'm fired. It's like good morning time. Let's go. Right? So they get the best version of me just because I worked out right before I see them.
I love that. I love that. 3 is actually a good time to work out.
Yeah. I have very intentional 3 o'clock. I was like, this kid is never, like the dad is never going to be tired. Like deal with that now.
I love what you said though about that kid moment. Cause that had to hurt.
Oh, that hurt hard.
Like
that was very.
But
hard,
you talk about motivating.
I was like, that was what I needed. That's the plan. That was like the universe saying you might have got everything else in order, but that vessel that operates in this physical world, this is the vessel. Like everything we experience is because of this body.
Yep.
And I was like, I wasn't taking care of it. I'm honest. Now I do. Yeah. At least I try my best, and I'm going to do better and better every day. Yeah. But that was the wake up. I couldn't hear it any other way. Like my wife could have told me anything, and I wouldn't hear it.
Right.
Because she's actually a really fit and healthy person.
Yeah.
And she did try to communicate that with me in the past, but I wouldn't hear it. But that one time, he said that one thing and it changed everything.
I love it. What is the biggest financial myth that people believe, and why is it dangerous?
The biggest financial myth I think that is very prevalent right now, especially right now in this culturescape, is that you can save yourself to become wealthy. And you can't do that. You can, but it'll take 30 years.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying like basically people think that if they get money, then that fixes them.
No.
Is that what you're saying?
You can, no, saving money will make you wealthy.
Oh, saving money will make you wealthy.
Saving will make you wealthy.
Saving themselves.
Well, saving themselves also. Sometimes
that also doesn't work.
That is also a myth that will not. I mean, that's a good one. We can talk about that too. But what I was talking about was if you try to save, or people say, okay, 20% you put it away and you can become wealthy.
Right.
You can. It'll take 30 years.
Right.
It takes a long time. So yes, you can, but it's not what you're thinking it will do. What you can do, though, is learn how to make more. And it's not necessarily as difficult as people think. People think it's like, oh, then I have to start a business, or I have to no, none of that is required. Making more money is mostly about negotiation and skill development. And that's it. If you know how to negotiate, you can make a lot more money. And if you know how to develop the right skill or a higher value skill, you can make a lot more money. Negotiating is one of the things that I've seen Americans never do, which is weird to me, because you can negotiate everything in America. It's so funny. To give an example of a story of, like, I realized you can negotiate a medical bill in America, which is fascinating to me. I mean, we did it as a thing that we needed to do, but I was just fascinated at how much you can negotiate in America. So when we were having our first child, we used to live in LA. We had just moved to America. So I was successful, but most of our money was outside America. I had very little money here because we were just starting a new life here. So we decided we want to have a child. We were going to have a home birth. And because of that, we didn't really line up the hospital and the doctors or whatever, right? We did have one backup, but we didn't really set it up in a way where we told our insurance and all that stuff, right? Because we're going to have a home birth, right? So while we were going through that journey, a complication happened and we had to rush to a hospital. So we had our birth, everything went well. This is the son that was meant to be. This is the son that told me eventually that I'm always tired. So we come back home, and about 5 or 10 days later, we get a bill. The bill was like $35,000 or something obscure, 20 to 35, something like that.
That's about right.
And I was like, babe, I mean, yes, but $20,000 for childbirth? That happens every day, everywhere. Like Americans can't afford that. At least based on news that I see, $20,000 for a child. Nobody will have kids.
Right.
Like this is insane.
Yeah.
How is that possible? And so she said, no, hold on, let's call them, right? And so she calls them and she starts to say, no, we don't have money. It was not that. I could have afforded the 20 grand or whatever the bill was, but it was just like stupid to me.
Right.
And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. She said, let me talk to them. And so she calls them and she says, I don't have money. I can't pay you 20 grand. No, I'm not going to pay. Right? And she keeps telling them that, and they kept coming down in the amount that you got to pay.
Yep.
Like from 20, it went to 15. She's like, no way. 10, 5, 4, 3. We paid $1,000.
What?
That's what we ended up paying.
And how long were you on the phone?
Maybe like 30 minutes. It
No
wasn't that
way.
long. Yeah, because they were like, there's no way they can collect that kind of money. Well, she was like, I don't have it. So you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to give it to you. This is stupid. I'm not going to get you. And then I learned it's true for everything actually in America. So anybody who's listening to this podcast, I want you to start doing this. Go anywhere and ask, is there a better deal or is this the best you can do?
Right.
So I've done this at car dealerships. I bought cars for cheaper than
I was
what they
just
offer.
about to say,
Yeah,
so car dealerships are notorious. Basically, when it comes to negotiating car dealerships, the key is to outlast them. So
it takes 3 hours.
Sometimes it takes all day. Yeah. But the key is you tell them your price, and then you absolutely do not accept anything except for your price.
Yeah.
So, and if you're willing to like go the long haul, then you'll get that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it in business deals all day. You can do it in salaries. You can do it in salaries a lot.
Right.
And there's many ways to negotiate salaries. You don't always have to take it as a straight up salary. You can negotiate in percentages, profit shares, goal-based bonuses. There are so many ways to negotiate. But people just don't try it because people think that whatever I get is whatever is the value.
Right.
And you see negotiations are everywhere. And anybody that you think is a great business entrepreneur that you look up to, you're like, that person's crushing it. They've negotiated a great bargain, 100%. All of them have. And that's one of the things that nobody does. You make more money negotiating. Like I have negotiated myself into deals that have made me way more money than salary increases or bonus checks, right? I just negotiate the deals. Just negotiate yourself a little bit better and you'll make a lot more money. And that's one of the things that I feel Americans just don't do.
Have you ever read the book Split the Difference?
Is this that I know FBA negotiator? Yeah.
Really
A long
good.
time ago, but yes, it's an amazing book,
Yeah.
great book. But you don't even need to negotiate like an FBI guy. Like it's way simpler. Like he was negotiating for freaking somebody's life. None of that. Like it's so much easier to negotiate on a boardroom table while you're salary or car buying or whatever, house buying, anything. Furniture buying, I've negotiated everything. I've made more money just negotiating.
Well, it goes back to like what I said earlier is closed mouths don't get fed.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people are just not asking. Yeah. They're not asking. Like if you don't ask, you don't know. So, to your point earlier, is that the best you can do? I mean, and that, listen, I'm in the gym business. So we get that actually, believe it or not, a lot of Americans are negotiators when it comes to gym memberships. So that's probably
only there. Yeah.
That's probably the number one thing we get is that's the best you can do. You can't do better than that. Like we get that all the time.
And that's the place that you actually don't want to negotiate.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the funny part.
Exactly.
That's the place where you're already getting a deal.
With a negotiator.
But you're already getting a deal because a 10% increase in your health is probably a 100% increase in your income.
Amen.
Like if you really, really get down to it,
very true.
10% increase in your health is about 50-60% increase in your energy level, which means about 100% increase in your actual income.
Well, it's just what we said. If you feel good, then normally you operate good. So feeling good is half the battle.
Yeah, and you feel good. Like the first time you'll go to the gym, if you've never been to it, will be hell. Yes.
Yeah.
But 3 months in, you're gonna be rocking it. You're gonna feel great. You will.
No one ever finishes a workout and then says, "Oh, that sucked." Like ever.
Everybody feels.
Everybody feels good after a workout.
Yes. So that's the first thing, and the second thing is a high value skill, which again is one of those things that people don't do. Is like people would go and acquire a skill and then stick with it forever, and that's not how you really get wealthy. Wealth is about if you have gotten a skill, see if you can up level that skill every 3 to 6 months. If you don't get better, so I don't know if we talked about it this podcast. I've done too many podcasts today, so I forget which story I told. But I went from being an intern to CEO of Mindvalley, the company I was working for, in about 6 years.
Yeah, you told us that.
Yeah, which is not normal.
Not normal at all.
It is not normal at all. And the reason why I could, and of course my income increased, right? Because it's not, in the intern I was making $400 an hour, right? So I was making a lot more plus bonus stakes by the time in 6 years. And I am no special. It was just because I kept upgrading my skills. Everybody else would be like, oh, I'm going to get really good at this. I was like, yes, and I need to keep showing that I have more value than anybody else around me. Like my skill level is so high that you want to pay me more money. Right?
Yep.
And that's how you become wealthy. And you don't have to start a business at all. Actually, most wealthy people don't start businesses. They are actually employees, they're CEOs, they're CEOs, they've done stock options or whatever. Right. They're the ones who actually get really wealthy and have time abundance on their hand. So real wealth actually is for salaried person more than the person that starts a business. The person who starts a business is miserable a lot of times because it's a lot of stress. My and a lot of people depend on us.
Yeah, my brother just sent me a DM with Alex Ramosi talking about how entrepreneurs were like we live miserable lives, you know, like, and you know, and be careful what you wish for, that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, entrepreneurs, like what I do is it's definitely not easy. Definitely not.
It's not easy. It's I'm sure you're wired for it.
But in my personal, like, it's what. So I've never worked for anybody ever, like ever. So for me, it's what works for me because I know I couldn't work for someone. So ever, like, you know, because I've literally never have. I mean, other than maybe my dad, you know, when he was, you know, telling me what to do all the time. But that's, you know, that's my dad. So yeah, you're 100% correct on negotiation, and then what you said that stood out to me, it's becoming better. And so oftentimes I feel like people get the degree, they get the certification, they get the job, and then they're like, okay, I made it, you know? And to me, you never make it. Like, you're never made, like, life is not, there's no finality, like, until you're dead. So it's like, why not become better? And then learn more skill sets. And then if you're in this position, well, what does it take to get to that position? And then finding that out and then learning that. And then also too, I find that, like, when people are in those type of positions, I'm sure you did this. So as an intern, I'm sure you kind of saw the person that then you wanted to be. So then you learn from them. Like, you ask questions and studied them and then said, I'm gonna do it better than them. And then what I've never understood a lot of times in this, and again, not to pick on the generations or whatever, but just in general, is if someone is in a position higher than you and that's where you're trying to go, or you have a desire to go, you might want to ask them questions. You might want to learn from them. You might want to study them. You might want to, you know, so I feel like that's missing a lot too, is you know, people just think they can do it on their own. And it's like, you know, you have to reach out and seek more than that. So.
Yeah, absolutely right. And if I may add a caveat to that, 95% of the world has never asked how to get better. If you really think about it, which is why 5% enjoy all the wealth.
Right.
It's not because they're not smart. It's because they're comfortable. If you're comfortable, you don't try to get better because you're already comfortable. Right. The reason why the people who get better is because they're not comfortable. They want a better life, so they know they have to get better. Most others, and this is not I don't diss on anybody that does. If you feel comfortable, if you're joyous in life, kudos to you, happy for you, and I'm all for you. Yeah. There's no problem.
No, and I've met plenty of people that are living the dream of, they make a certain amount of money, they live below their means, and they seem happy as all get out. And I'm like, salute to you. You know, I can't do that, but good for you. So I understand your point.
So 95% in any generation has been like that. 95% of people are, they want the better, but they don't want to get better.
Right.
They're comfortable with where they are. And that's why they tend to not have the approach that we are talking about. The 5% in any generation always wants to get better. And that 5% usually drives the economies of the country. They are the ones who drive the narrative of the country. They drive the narrative of the world in some cases. It's always the 5, maybe 7%, sometimes 3%, but it's somewhere in that range. It's never over 10% of population that says, I'm gonna get better because I want a better life. They want the comfortable life.
Right.
And they want it at the pace that it happens. They're okay and comfortable with that. The challenge with people like you and I is we have troubled minds in a way. right? And because we have troubled minds, we go, I can't just not do better.
Right.
Like I have a problem. It's almost like we have a problem.
Oh yeah.
And because of that, we go, I have to get better because I want better, so I have to get better, and so I'm going to ask questions.
Right.
But that's always been the case. And I think there's nothing to take away from this generation. If anything, the generation that we have right now is kinder. I think they need time. They need more. They're more aware than we were ever. Like we had to fight our demons. They already fought their demons. Like it feels like sometimes to me when I'm talking to the current generation, is they're like, no, I know I have a problem and I'm gonna go solve it. And I'm not gonna, keep chasing and let the demon be in the bag and one day it'll erupt in something stupid. I would rather just go take care of it. Now, where's that line? Debatable from my point of view. Like from your point of view, it feels like it's a little too much. I agree with you on that. It's like you don't always have to go to therapy. Like it's all right, it's fine. Like it's fine. Everything is not your parents' problem. I hear you on that, and I agree with you on that. But at the same point in time, I think they are having their own mental revolution, like we had ours, right? We had our own demons, we had our own challenges, and we fought them differently.
Right.
They just have so much knowledge or so much information, maybe not knowledge.
Yeah,
so much information.
I would say,
Yeah,
definitely.
So much information and so
Almost
little of
too
each
much
other.
information.
Yeah.
Like
And so little of little depth of the information that they have a different battle than what we fought.
What I've experienced is a lot of them are super, super smart, and they can, and they're soaking up all this like information thrown on from TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. But then what I found, and they're listening to this podcast and that and reading this book and whatever, but they haven't applied it.
Yeah.
It's like they know it,
yeah,
but they haven't stopped and then applied it. And it's in the application that you go, It's like knowledge. Knowledge without application is like a waste of time. So, so that's what I've kind of experienced with the younger generation.
That's very true. And they're also really young, so we'll only learn in 10 years if they're doing it right and we got it wrong, or we got it right and they got it wrong. But,
yeah, very true.
But that's the risk of every generation, I think, is that's what makes or breaks the country. Also, in 10 or 15 years, you realize, well, we did it right or we did it wrong. And the hope always, at least from my point of view, the hope always is that 5% that we were talking about can drive it all.
Yeah.
Because eventually it does fall back on the 5-10% of the population. And it is not to discount
Which
90.
is wild. Like to hear you say it out loud is.
But if you really think about it, that's
but
what
it's
it has
true.
always
No,
been.
it's true.
It's 5 to 10% of people that drive the narrative, even right now. Like if you want to look at the narrative, whatever the narrative is out in this country or any country, you can pick a couple of hundred people that drive pretty much all of it.
Right.
Right. If they are saying something, suddenly everybody is saying that.
Yep.
Right. And you go, oh, how did that happen? When did we change that much? It's because those 10 people changed their opinion. Those 100 people changed their opinion. And you're a country of 300 million people. 10% is 30 million people. Not even 30 million are influencing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Your 5% actually might
even
be
5% now feels more.
0.05% now that you said it like that. Wow.
Right? It's like out of all the Instagram creators and programs and people wanting to create, only 3% ever create. And they're driving all narrative. Really.
Yeah.
So,
well, take us back. What was it like growing up with 23 other people in one home? And how did that experience really? I mean, I know that today, you've kind of said you feel like you're meant to do what you're doing today because of that. But give us an example of what that really, how that molded you.
Yeah, so it was interesting when I was growing up in my house with 23 people sharing the same space. At that time, my mind was really bothered with how little we had. So I could never really appreciate the abundance I had actually in the house. I could only criticize and have problems with how little we had. So the amount of little, just to give you context of how little it was, I wore clothes that my brother used to wear. We went to the same school, so I would take his clothes when he was done with those clothes, right? So we didn't have a lot of money. So that's why I would get transfer clothes. My bike was his bike. When he went to the next version of the bikes, I would ride that bike, right? So it was very, when the brother is done, you can have it, right? And so it was very lack of abundance at that time in context of money abundance. And I couldn't appreciate what all I had at that time. But as I went through life and I looked back, because when I had the money abundance, I recognized how much value I was being driven at that time. And so now I can appreciate it. In that moment, I didn't. But now I appreciate that living with 23 people taught me about conversation, negotiation, because I had 6 cousin brothers, and 3 of them were older than me, 2 of them were older than me, 3 of them were younger than me. We were negotiating all the time, right? We were fighting all the time, of course,
right.
But we were also negotiating all the time because we all wanted to play with the same toy in the same place with the same, everybody wanted to bowl first or bat first, and so it was always a negotiation. But I am really good at it, and I can talk about it even without any formal training about it, is because that was my life.
Right.
I was negotiating with brothers all the time. I learned how to share space with other people without having to take space, right? Because again, you're sharing space with 23 people. You don't want to always be like the person. You want to give everybody space. So I'm very kind with people because of that. I'm very generous with my time. I'm very curious about other individuals. It's wired in me because of how I grew up. I became a really caring person because my family was very caring. When you live with 23 people, the only way you get to live without fighting is you care for the next guy. And have you ever seen that meme, the difference between hell and heaven, where basically everybody's hands are tied and you have beautiful feast in front of you? But in hell, what they're doing is they're taking the big spoon with the hands tied and trying to feed themselves. You can't do that. Right? But in heaven, the difference is they take the spoon and they feed the next guy. So everybody's in heaven, right? That's what you learn when you're with 23 people, is you learn how to be with other people and care for them before you care for yourself. I saw my mother with my 2 aunts cooking for the whole family, right? 3 ladies cooking for some 16 people, 17 people at a time. Insane. Yeah. It was out of their love and kindness, right? I saw my father taking care of his brothers when they couldn't do certain things. Right? So I was like, wow, love and kindness, right? So all those lessons that were subtle, like my grandfather, like I was talking, he was the elder of the family, of the community, really. We would see people come in and he would start at 8 in the morning. He would go on till 10, 11 in the night, and next day, 8 o'clock in the morning again. And this guy had no money. He could have gone out and worked and made some money. No, he was like, no, you need help. I'm going to put my time to help and support you with whatever knowledge I have, whatever information I have, whatever questions I can ask, whatever clarity I can bring. I will end this fight for your family by giving the most valuable thing that I have right now, which is time.
Yeah.
Right? So I learned all of that because I grew up in that community. So there was abundance of love and kindness and just pure humanity in my family that I could only appreciate when I stepped away from it, because I realized how little it is actually in the world, how few people actually give that care, how few people actually just say, you know what, it doesn't matter if I get paid or not. I did something good, right?
You don't hear that much.
Yeah, you don't hear that much. And I grew up in that, so it makes it easier for me to be able to do it today because it doesn't feel like I have to try.
Right.
At least that's what I feel. I'm not saying people say that about me. I don't know. I've never asked, but that's how I operate.
Yeah.
And that's how in a previous conversation I was having with somebody asked me, what is it that then your goals are? Because I said, money goals I don't really set. And so they asked, what are your goals? And I said, well, the only goal I have now is how many thank yous I get to collect in my lifetime. Is it ever that, and it happens, so I'm grateful that it happens for me right now in my life, but when I'm walking down the street or I'm just sitting at a restaurant, somebody walks up to me and just says, thank you. You don't have to tell me why. You don't have to say whatever it is. That makes my day. That tells me that I did something meaningful in my life, that I contributed with from a place of love and service, because that thank you is a genuine thank you. You don't have to use the words. It's just thank you. And that's it. I don't need no money. I don't need any recognition for it. I don't need any fame for it. Just a private thank you that I could contribute to your life in some way. And that's what I'm collecting now. That's all I'm interested in.
I love that. This morning, one of our members came up to me while I was working out. It was around 6 o'clock, and she said, I want to thank you for what you've created because it's literally changed my life. I'm not the same person I was a year ago before I joined this place, blah, blah, blah. And private, no one heard her, just me and her. And those moments are the moments I love the most. Just when people tell you the impact that you've had on them, you know, in not publicly, like, you know, not on Instagram, but like privately. And those are the most powerful moments for me to keep going, to keep trying to become better, to keep trying to make this go further and to reach more people and to open more gyms and to, you know what I mean? Like that's what gets you going. Not, of course, and again, like money's great, obviously.
Of course.
I think what money is for me is freedom. You know, I think money provides freedom. It provides the ability to help your family and others, and, you know, whether it's organizations or your church or whatever. Like I love that about money, but, you know, it's those quiet conversations, those quiet pats on the back that, you know, they're rare, but when you get them, it's like, okay.
It's so much more human though, right? They look right in your eye and they say that thank you, and they know that, and you know they mean it. They're not doing for any other reason, but actually meaning it to be so real. Yeah. And that's like a tank full suddenly. It's like, I'm ready to go.
It just like gets you going, like for sure.
It
happened
good,
this
right?
morning. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm sure there are a lot of unsaid thank yous that are around you all the time. They've just never had the courage to walk up to you.
Yeah, and you can feel, you know, you can see people's, we always say we want people walking out better than they walk in, and you see it. You know,
you see people the effort. Like I was just at your gym. I was like, it's a full gym on a, Wednesday afternoon or something. And I was like, that means they are grateful.
But what I've noticed is you see people walk in with a certain demeanor, and almost every time they walk out with a smile, or at least they're lifted. Like you can just tell they like whatever just happened. The effort, the sweat, the conversation, the music, whatever it was, the instructor, whatever it was, they walked out better than they walked in. And that when you start to pay attention to those things, that's what makes this worth it. You know? Yeah. So you've talked about that you're passionate about growing extraordinary communities. Which is something that I'm a strong believer in, and I believe that we're doing that here in Miami. Can you talk a little bit about like your values in your life and how they influence like accomplishing that?
Yeah. So there was a few years ago, I think, where I started to question the purpose of why I was doing coach training and all of that, and why it mattered. And one of the differences that I believe we had, and one of the reasons why I wanted to keep doing what I was doing, is because I only wanted to build a business that was in congruence with who I am as a person. I didn't want to build a business because, you know, because I could and I can, but I wanted to build something that I felt like this is me expressed in the world outside. And so many, many years ago, me and my now wife, then girlfriend, sat together and found our core values in life. And the core values that we have is love and service. You always want to be from a place of love, and you always want to be in service of humanity and human beings around us. So those are our two core values. Now, my total expansion of those is health and freedom too, but generally it's love and service is where we operate from. So I presented that to my team. We were at this cross point where we were making money, but I was like, I don't want to do it for the money. I want to do it for something more that's important and close to me. And I said, guys, I don't want to talk about how much we make. I want to talk about, did we love and did we serve? And if we love and serve, I'll be happy. And this might mean we may have a season in business. It may not be a beautiful season. It might be a little hard as a season. But I want to operate only from these two values. I want to ask ourselves questions of, is this an expression of love? Is this product an expression of love? Is this the greatest service I can provide to this customer when they send an email or when they don't send an email? The experience that they get to have, are they experiencing love and service on a day-to-day basis? And we added on top of it care. We said, give a damn, because nobody does, not in our world, right? So we said, we want to do love and service, and we want to care for every person that comes into our sphere. And that changed the dialogue first for my team, because my team started to ask, and even catch me sometimes, because, you know, as entrepreneurs, we can fall for the trap. I need to make the P&L, I need to do this. And they started to catch me. I said, but this is not an act of love. You know that, right? I'll be like, you're right, we're not going to do it, because it's not an act of love, right? So it made some hard decisions for us early on. But what started to happen is, as my team was on board, somehow that was getting communicated to our clients unconsciously. Not that we were actively saying we are showing love and we are showing service. We were not saying that. But somehow our clients started to speak that language of love and service. They were kinder. They were talking to us much more nicely. And everything started to change. And what we found is that when they would come together as a community, like if you come to our event, and I'd love to have you at one of our events at some point, we have like 700, 800, 900 people, but you meet anyone, it feels like they're your friend. They will meet you with the warmest hug, with the most loving eyes, with the kindest, like we share laughter. We let nobody stand alone. Somebody standing alone, we go, hey, come on, just join us. Like, it's fine. Join in the circle. We'll talk. So there is no introvert and extrovert in our world. They're just human beings, right? And everybody's just having a good time, community, held, supported in the way they want to. If anybody is in trouble, I don't have to run to them because I know 3 other people, not even my team, has got them. And that happened because organically, as you practice your values in business, or as I practice values in my business, I recognize that people want to come for something together. Right? They want to stand for something. It's like your no days off in a way, right? Your community does not want a day off. That's why they go, I'm going there. I'm not going anywhere else. I'm going to Legacy Fit. Why? Because no days off, right? There's a commitment that comes with value. And that commitment is, I think, what creates community. So what we've now found is that anybody that comes in my circle, till the time we are expressing our values, which we try to do every day, every time we are communicating with anyone in any way possible, we find that our sphere of community has gotten bigger because more people want to align with values that really are aligned with just being human in a way. Because love and service is so intrinsic to all of us. Like no days off is so intrinsic to all of us.
Right.
Like we don't want to take days off. We take it because of whatever reason, but we don't really want to. We want to come out as our best selves every single day, right? So this is something that everybody's willing to fight for. And so the community gets stronger. So that's where I find that we've been able to build great communities. Our communities stay with us for a very long time. Our students do multiple programs with us. And that's because of our values. It's not because of a marketing system. It's nothing special. Like if you look at my marketing, it's actually very non-aggressive, very subtle. It's like, if you feel like you can buy it, if you don't, it's all good.
Yeah.
Good on you. That kind of marketing.
It's probably authentic though.
It's real. It's just who I am.
Now,
Like if you want it,
the number one thing that they talk about now in marketing is that where we are today is people can their bullshit detector is like on high. So that if you're not authentic, then you're not going to get through to the customers out there. Let me ask you this. When you made that decision, did you have anyone close to you or on your team that was like not about it? Or did everybody kind of buy in? Like when you went from like, like P&Ls and balance sheets and like, we have to do this to then like, no, we're just going to operate in love. Was there anybody that's like, wait a minute, like I'm here to make money, Did you have any of that? Like, did you ruffle anyone's feathers in your group or?
Maybe 1 or 2 who thought this was a phase.
Yeah.
So, like any entrepreneur, you wake up one day, you start saying these things and a person says, you've said this before. It's going to be gone. It's a season. It's a phase. You're just excited about it. I don't know if you're like that, but I'm definitely like that. Sometimes there's like a seasonal thing that I'm like, no, we're really going to do it. And then even I lose motivation for it because it wasn't a good strategy anyways. So there was a couple of people like that, but then they phased out themselves because I didn't give up on it. I just said, no, that's what we're doing. And it's okay with me if I don't make whatever, it doesn't matter. And honestly, I feel like if you live your values, you make way more anyways.
Yeah.
But you're happier with whatever you make as well. So it's kind of like, it's very counterintuitive. It doesn't make any sense. It's not 1 + 1 is 2. Like it's not mathematical. It's intuitive. And we all know it. Kind of somewhere in our heart of hearts, we know if we do the right thing, we'll get the right result.
Right.
Right? We know it. All of us know it. But because we can't put a finger on it, because science can't prove it yet, we say, oh, we shouldn't do it. It's stupid. Let me come back with a strong business strategy. But I feel the best business strategy for me, at least at this point in my life, is the human strategy. Care, give a damn, do great things or the best you can, and people will fall in love and they will go, all right, I am for this person if they are the right people. Right. And the ones that are not right are anyways not right. So great that they didn't say yes. So that's where I am. So there were a few people who were definitely not fully in, and eventually they phased out themselves. But I knew that would happen. I hoped it didn't happen a lot, which it didn't, which I'm grateful for. Because I was like, oh crap, if half my team leaves, that would be hard. But then I also was okay with, so that's the thing I think in decisions, you have to be okay with the dice can roll either way, right? So you have to be okay that it can collapse. And that you will figure it out because you figured out many things in life. So I definitely have confidence that I can make anything work. So I know even if it all goes to shit, I can build it back up. I'm pretty confident about that.
Yeah.
It'll be hard days or hard weeks or hard months, but I'll figure it out. I've always figured it out. So I have faith in myself. So I did sign up. When I did sign up for it, I did sign up for that it is a possibility it collapses. And I was okay with it.
Yeah. I've actually never asked this, but I'm going to ask you this. So if you had a day for you, like only you, not with your wife, not with your kids, nothing, just absolutely a day for you, that would be like your perfect day, what would that look like?
My personal perfect day. So it would, and it's like a holiday perfect day or just regular day?
Whatever, like not work related, like absolutely you, it's your day.
Yeah.
For you.
So I take those days.
Yeah. I figured you did. That's why I asked.
Where I put away work.
Yeah.
I'll go away for 3 days, actually, usually 3 to 4 days. And I would usually go to a different place, any place. Could be a beach. Usually not a beach, it's usually a mountain.
Okay.
But sometimes it's a beach, depending on. I would take about 3 to 4 days every year. That is just my days. And usually they involve walking because I love walking. It can involve working out a little bit sometimes, but it involves a lot of reading. Involves a lot of writing. So I like writing, not just books, but also like poetry. I like thinking about things like that. So it involves a lot of those things. And that's pretty much the entire day. It doesn't have a lot of other things in it. Yeah. But that's pretty much it. Yeah. It might involve, it depends on what time of the year. It might involve a little bit visioning. You know, it might involve a little altered state. I don't know how far we go in that rabbit hole, but it might involve that. Yeah. It depends on where I am in life, really. Right. But primary things that I just enjoy when I'm just by myself is reading, writing, walking, looking at the culture wherever I am, working out if there's a good gym around, but not attached to that much. Yeah. But yeah, that would be it.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's a very simple day. Simple, man.
Hey,
yeah.
There's beauty in simplicity, so I love it. Well, man, thank you so much. This was great. So thank you.
Same, man. Same. Yeah. It was great talking to you. You're a great inspiration, and you have so much to teach everyone around you. And I'm so glad what you've built here. I mean, I wasn't expecting, honestly. I didn't know much walking in, but I look at the culture of the gym down there and everything that you're doing with the drink and everything. I was like, oh, what a coincidence with the wonderful. I gotta treat Melitza later to introduce us and to do this conversation. Definitely. Thank you. I learned a lot from you.
All right, man. Thank you.
Cheers.